Hey all, welcome to episode 118 of Bicycle Touring Talk. My name is George Schlacek, and I started this series months ago to share my experience and stories from my bicycle tours. Recent episodes all cover parts of my 2017 Cross Canada tour. I spent an entire summer cycling from Canada's west coast on Vancouver Island to the easternmost part of Newfoundland. Yes, the tour had to include ferry rides. On Thursday, August 25th, my day started on such a ferry. After a 16-hour crossing, I found myself in Argentia, Newfoundland, and in the company of a group of other cyclists who had all ended up on the same ferry after months of cycling separately, alone or in smaller groups. After a stop at the Welcome Center, I was on my way toward St. John's, which was only about 130 kilometers away. The ride was amazing, with a very strong tailwind which allowed for a really fast pace, despite some very serious hills. My next stop was at Tim Hortons in Whitbourne, mostly to get access to the internet again, but also to enjoy a cup of coffee and a peanut butter cookie. 5 other cyclists I had met on the boat also stopped here. They were all debating about where to spend the night. There seemed to be a good camping park at exit 32, and we all considered stopping there. It was another 30 kilometers along the Trans-Canada Highway, with the wind now a little bit from the side, but still helping. I arrived ahead of the others, but it didn't take long before Lisa, a cyclist from Vermont, arrived as well. Lisa and I got to share a tent site, while the others, a family of 4, got the one next to us. I cooked chili and noodles for supper and had a good warm shower afterwards. It got dark fast, and we all settled in our tents soon after that. There were only about 60 kilometers left to ride to reach St. John's. I was hoping to camp there for a night or two while exploring the surroundings and getting set up for the flight home. I got up relatively early the next morning and had breakfast with Lisa. The sky had clouded over, but it was still relatively mild. Rain seemed to be on the way, so we took down the tents right after our meal. Our neighbors, a married couple with their 2 teenage boys, came over to chat for a bit. Dad, whose name I unfortunately forgot, had quite a story to tell, as he had cycled across Canada by himself many years before and was now introducing his whole family to bicycle touring. The first few kilometers were on the Trans-Canada Highway, which wasn't too busy, but also not very exciting. At exit 35 there was an alternative, Route 60. It was a decent ride through some smaller communities that were quite picturesque. I stopped at yet another Tim Hortons in Conception Bay to connect to the internet. Lisa rolled in not too far behind me. We ended up exchanging route information and agreed to meet up later at Pippi Park in St. John's. I was trying to stay on secondary roads even though they all seemed to be heavily traveled. At one point, a sign pointed toward St. John's, but it apparently wasn't Route 60. For lack of reliable route indicators, I decided to follow it. It led onto an expressway, which wasn't what I had envisioned, but at least it had a good paved shoulder. Eventually, that led me back to the Trans-Canada Highway, which I now followed to exit 46. It was easy to find the entrance to the park from there. I paid the camping for one night. There was a field for the tents with no assigned spots. It wasn't exactly great. The grass hadn't been mowed in a while, and the one lonely picnic table was broken. In one corner of the place, someone had pitched a tent, but no one was there. I walked around a bit to check out the facilities. At least there were showers and a shelter with Wi-Fi. I picked a spot not too far from the picnic table to pitch my tent and went to the Wi-Fi place to search for a hotel and a bike shop. My return flight to Edmonton was booked with the help of my daughter, who worked for a major airline at that time. The hotel was gonna be expensive. There was a Holiday Inn Express right next to the airport, so that was probably the best choice. But now I had to start thinking about getting organized for a journey of a different kind, and it was overwhelming. When I returned to the tent field, Lisa was there too, setting up her tent. The other tent belonged to a couple from New Zealand, and guess what? They had also cycled across Canada. We never had a chance to swap stories because it started raining quite heavily. The couple was packing up to move to a hotel with an airport shuttle, looking forward to drying off. I asked where they were staying, and it turned out that it was the Holiday Inn Express. I had supper and tea with Lisa at the picnic shelter, while the rain was coming down steadily. Then it got dark. It was going to be a wet night. I was in the tent ready to fall asleep around 10 o'clock. At this point, I'm going to ask you to do something really simple, but it's so easily forgotten. Hit that like button for me just once. Awesome, thanks. Then it was Saturday. Everything around my tent except the inside was sopping wet. The temperature had also dropped a great deal, so it was anything but a pleasant morning. The first thing I did was to use the Wi-Fi to book a room for 2 nights. Hotwire had a great deal for me right near the airport. It included breakfast and an airport shuttle. As it works with Hotwire, the hotel was revealed after I paid for it and everything, and it was the Holiday Inn Express. The price wasn't so great after a tax recovery charge was added. Isn't that an awesome idea? Charging your clients for the taxes you owe the government. I had sandwiches for breakfast right at the picnic shelter. Lisa, the cyclist from Vermont, joined me and we shared some of our food. She was wondering how to get back to Vermont and had been trying to book a flight to Montreal. But the poor Wi-Fi connection at Pee Park had made it impossible, so she had booked a rental car instead. After breakfast, the rain had stopped and the wind was doing a great job at drying off my tent. While I was slowly getting organized to leave the park, Lisa went to pick up her ride and catch better Wi-Fi somewhere to book her flight. Just as I was ready to leave, she pulled up in a black SUV. We took a couple of photos together and agreed to keep in touch. My plan for the day was to first visit Cape Spear, the absolute easternmost point of Canada. I kinda had to go there to complete my mission of crossing Canada by bicycle. It's part of Greater St. John's, but about 17 kilometers outside of town. After having ridden 9,500 kilometers across the country, 17 kilometers seemed like a walk in the park. Only in my mind. Yes, there's another episode coming up. It's all about the adventure of riding up to Cape Spear and my last weekend in Newfoundland. I hope you'll join me for it. And no worries, when this series is complete, I'll be back with more videos about the adventures of bicycle touring, which is and will always be my favorite way of travel. I'd love to have you as a subscriber. There's no commitment on your part. Thanks and welcome. Any questions about touring across Canada? I've probably answered them somewhere in this unique playlist. If not, ask me in the comments.